Welcome, Ed Encina, Eddie in the yard. What's up, buddy? Welcome.
You all right, Jay?
I'm dying over here. I'm dying.
Need some extra water? What do you need? Mix it in water there, bud.
Might want to mix in a water there, bud. I feel much better than I did last night. Did I even say goodbye to you last night or no?
I don't think you just kind of disappeared. Were you not feeling well?
No, first period, bro. I was done.
Oh, really?
Not feeling good. I had the Espo flu, I guess they call it. I was not feeling good. I was like, bro, first period, I was like, I told Tommy and Gary, I was like, I'm leaving. They're like, go get some rest.
There's a bug going around the Lightning dressing room right now. So
Is it?
Yeah. So I don't know if well, you weren't at skate, but there's some guys who are feeling under the weather after that trip. So
really, how was the trip? Everybody wants to know.
The trip. Well, I only went to Boston.
Yeah.
Which was well worth the visit because there was a lot of news there. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because like you go up when you're down here for so long and you go up north to travel in January, you realize why you don't live there. Right. And how much of a bad rookie mistake it is to like forget your beanie on your carry-on and stuff like that. So I stayed just across the Charles River from the TD Garden. So like no more than a 5-minute walk. And each time I made that walk, it was brutal. Like, just brutal. Like the Charles River is completely frozen over. And, there's these, people are, just wearing basic, jackets and caps. And I'm just sitting there like holding my mittens over my ears like a baby trying to figure out how to keep warm. But yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, it was eventful. A lot of stuff going on. Whether it was the stuff with Braden Point, getting to see Jack Finley's debut, and obviously the game itself. A lot of stuff happened there. Those are always big games. You always feel like those are the ones you want to circle when you're trying to pick out your travel because it feels like something always notable happens when they play in Boston. So, and it did.
What do you make of the team and how they handled the Braden Point situation? I know it's very matter of fact. It's black and white, but like just being around the team, did they make a big deal about it? Did they talk about it a lot? Because it just seems like it's like, hey, these are the rules and that's it. And it's not more complicated than it really is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that, I think that's just the case. I mean, I think everyone knows the rules. I think, I think they all feel bad when that happens with a guy because they know that it could happen to them too. I mean, and, whether it's Braden Point or I think Erik Cernak last year, he missed a meeting and had to sit. I think it happened to Point again in 2019. But it's one of those things where the rules are the rules, and I think that obviously Braden Point could help the Lightning on Tuesday night, no doubt. But I think everyone just kind of knows it, and I think as a part of the accountability of this room and this organization is kind of created, under the Vinik ownership, under John Cooper. And the Breezeball Yzerman kind of leadership group, and it sucks, right? Because probably there's no one who feels worse about it than Braden Point, than laying his teams down and his teammates down, and not being there for him in a big game. But like I said, the rules are the rules, and I think hockey is one of those sports where we see as much as we can, but there's a lot that we don't see. So in a situation like that, if that rule's not in place and it's not enforced, we probably don't even know. You know what I mean? And until maybe, we don't know that he missed a team meeting. You know what I mean? Like, but once that's enforced, like we saw in morning skate, he wasn't on the power play reps or anything like that. Then you kind of, okay, something's going on here. And, when they make the call up for Jack Finley, you probably assume there that he's not going to play. You don't know why exactly, but, a lot of teams can keep that really to themselves and under the rug if they want to. And you got to give the Lightning credit for that. And that, is from top to bottom. It's from, ownership to the, to the hockey ops staff, to the, to the coaching staff, to the players, that everyone knows what's what and everyone's on the same page. And I think, the way Cooper talked about after the game was, it's a hiccup. Everyone knows Braden Point's a great teammate. Everyone knows that, he's one of the hardest working guys in the room.
He's a hard sleeper.
And maybe he's just a little bit hard sleeper. And, it is fascinating how that kind of happens too. It's kind of like, obviously these guys stay in really nice hotels, and, there's a team bus that there's a couple team buses that go to the arena for a skate. So I would have loved to have seen like how that all developed amongst the teammates and being like, well, where's Point? Where's
Yeah,
Pointer?
where's Pointer? Yeah.
And obviously, as we said, if he's not on the first bus, he could have been on the second bus. So I guess, you'll know that if you're a teammate. But, like I said, Cooper called it a hiccup, so, and, I think, Point kind of addressed a little bit in post game, that happened, and he wanted to be out there, for his team today and kind of, these aren't his words, but kind of make up for it. And obviously he had a huge game. And like he said, we all love watching Braden Point on the ice, because he can do some crazy things that, most people can't do. So, and then obviously the Lightning are better with him on it.
Ed, when you look at a situation like that, did they just call Finley up just because Point was out?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's why. I mean,
wow.
They're strapped there with, when they sent down Gonsalves, or when they place him on waivers, you have that 24-hour window where he's available to every team. And, but at that point, they made the decision that they weren't going to call up another forward. And from what I was told, it's like Finley was in the conversation at that point, but they made the decision not to. So you make that decision and you're really up against it in terms of numbers. Like, they needed Jack Finley to field the lineup, full lineup. And we've seen in certain times, I think a couple years ago, I looked this up yesterday because, just because of Cernak getting hurt early, is in LA in 2022, they had to play with
5 defensemen. 4 or 5, 4, right? Yeah,
right.
I remember that.
Because a bunch of guys were hurt, and that was because of the salary cap. Like, they physically couldn't call up a guy. And this one's a little bit different. They have the money to call up a guy, but I think right now what Julian's doing is he's trying to, kind of stash as much of that space as he can for an upgrade at the trade deadline, and so but they had the option of calling up a guy. They chose not to. And then this happens, which you really don't know is a thing until probably like 10:30 in the morning, right? They had 11 o'clock skate in Boston. I would assume that team meeting, they went on the ice at 11. I assume the team meeting is probably around 9:30 or 10. So he's not there, and they've got to figure out what to do. And Jack Finley was literally pulled out of practice in Syracuse on Tuesday and told, hey, you're going up.
So it's a good thing they were in Boston, because
this wouldn't have happened if it was out west. It couldn't have worked.
They would have played with 11 forwards.
They would have had to play with 11 forwards.
Wow.
Yeah, 11 forwards and 6D, and then obviously, so they're at 18. They were at 18 skaters going into the day, and Jack Finley gets a call. He's told he's going up, hops on a flight from Syracuse, has enough time to land in Boston, take a shower, and head over to the rink. So, it is one of those. I mean, hockey, more than anything, I feel like has some of these great stories about how guys get their chances. Whether it's the e-bug, situation, or it's a situation like that with Jack Finley. And obviously, Finley was this guy who I think he's a big dude, 6'6", can play a physical game, and I think you wanted a guy like that in a game like against Boston, where we kind of knew that some of this, it could be physical. There could be some. A lot of stuff going on the ice. So he was a guy that they wanted. He was a guy they talked about going in, but they, obviously, like I said, they didn't make that move to add a 13th forward before going into morning skate. And then they had to make a move because, or else they would have been with just 11 skaters, and like I said, I mean, let's face it, that bottom line, that bottom six depth right now hasn't been great. So, if you do skate 11 guys, you're already down 1. Someone takes a puck, you're down to 10. Nikita Kucherov is already playing, a ton of minutes, whether it's on the power play or 5-on-5. He's probably the guy that's going to get a lot more ice time when you're shorthanded on the forward group. So, and for a guy like Finley, I've seen a lot of these rookie laps that these guys get to do before warmups, and it's probably one of the coolest things because. Yeah. And especially where they are, I think like Cole Koepke got to do his in Madison Square Garden last year. Finley getting to do it in Boston. That's really cool. And it's a memory. Geekie did his in Carolina this year. That's one of those memories that you're never going to forget. It's probably maybe even more than some of the game. So but for him it was a quick up and down, and I'm sure we'll see him again at some point. But yeah, I also think this is one of those times too where you want to check out and see how some of these guys in Syracuse can match up and potentially help you as you're trying to project how you do want to maybe make some moves as a trade deadline kind of approaches.
Yeah, they can either help you on the team or help you as trade bait
For
and on
sure.
the way out. So you kind of showcase those guys as well. Any update on Cernak? Only played one shift last night, then left. Any update on him? Do we think it's going to be a long term, short term?
I talked to Cooper after the game, and he just said it was day to day. And obviously, I don't think he really knew that much. I mean, I think we'll know more tomorrow morning. If we see another defenseman out there, I
Right.
mean, because again, they're as much as they're really at the limit,
Threshold. Yeah.
threshold here forward wise. It's always also on the D cord, and that's one thing that it's kind of been a little curious as to how long you can stick with six guys. Because I mean the other night in Boston, Ryan McDonough takes a puck to the face and he misses good 10, 12 minutes of the third period. Again, Cernak only took one shift last night, and they played with shorthanded for basically the entire game. So it's one thing as forwards, but like the defenseman takes so much punishment, especially blocking shots and just the physicality of the position that you always like to have seven guys. And so like I said, if you see like a Max Crozier or someone like that at morning
Right.
skate tomorrow, I would say that we can expect this to see Erik Cernak miss some time here, whether it's one game, two games, something like that. But again, this is a gauntlet that they're going through right now. 16 games in 29 days, a lot of them on the road, so it's a lot of travel, it's a lot of hotels, a lot of being on a plane. So the guys talked about at their game is it's a physical toll, more so than usual. So I wouldn't see them necessarily hesitate if Cernak is questionable, even going into tomorrow, that they would have an extra guy in place, because you want to be shorthanded there, at all, especially you're chasing points. You see a lot of teams right now that are getting hot in the division and the conference. So the Lightning have had this situation where they've had a lot of games in hand for most of the year, but this is the time of the year where they're starting to make up for it. And it's one thing to have those games in hand; it's another thing to make good on it and get those points out of it. So these are important games, and you want to be at your full capacity to be able to pick up those points.
Yeah, and as we record right now, the Lightning in third place in the Atlantic. They have 51 points. Florida's in second place with 55. Maple Leafs in first with 58. Leafs, Panthers, and the Bruins, who are 2 points behind the Lightning, have all played 46 games. The Lightning have played 43. So let's just say they win all three of those games. They'd have 6 points. They'd be a point behind the Maple Leafs and 2 points ahead of the Panthers. But just because you have games in hand, a double E, another double E. I told everybody to follow anybody with the initials double E when I left last night. So I wasn't feeling good. Yeah, it doesn't mean just because you have the games in hand, you're going to win. I would almost think, that if they call up Crozier, that he's playing, right? Because of the salary cap ramifications. I know we don't want to assume that, but I would guess that the only way they'd bring him up if he was going to play, because of why they're formulating the roster the way they are right now. So
right, there's that, and also the mentality of, like, especially a guy like Cernak who has been injury prone,
right,
is you don't want to risk it if you can help him get another day or two. They're going to be off Sunday, but
right.
and then travel. I think actually that Sunday's a travel day, but anytime you can kind of extend a guy's ability to heal, you want to in the regular season, thinking about that bigger picture of being as healthy as you can down the stretch and into the playoffs. So and again, Crozier is one of those guys who really proved that he was very trustworthy when he was here. He was a guy that I honestly thought had a really good chance of making the team in camp. He dealt with an injury in Syracuse and is just kind of coming back now. But he's done everything to prove that he can be an NHL player here. So it's not like you're bringing up a guy that you don't know who he is either. He's a trustworthy guy. We saw how well he played with Lilleberg when he was here. I think he can play with pretty much anyone. So I mean, I think if you bring him up, it's you can expect them to play because of those kind of those kind of situations. Yeah.
I'm hoping that they give Crozier a look down the stretch, because as much as I think Radish and Perbix are decent players, I feel like Max has a higher ceiling than both of those guys, and we know Cernak is there. I think they need to fortify in the blue line as well as the middle six. I think a lot of people have been having those same type of discussions. What do you like from Conor Geekie since he got that healthy scratch? Because I know you and I were talking about him, and I've been kind of pushing like, hey, I know he's 20, but everybody's like, hey, he's just a rookie, blah blah. You got to be easy with him, but to me, man, I think at times you got to push young players too and be like, hey, like you're better than this. Like you got to step your game up. He comes back in the lineup, scores a goal the other night in Boston. What do you see from his game? And do you think he's going to be better suited on the wing with Cirelli and Hagel or on that third line at the center spot?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit of him move around within that middle six. I think we're going to see it in both, him in both of those situations. I mean, it's funny you asked that. I actually talked to him the other day, yesterday in skate, and he's actually one of the guys that's kind of battling a bug right now. So he told me to, keep my distance from him. But yeah, I think, one thing about him is, and I know, I might be sounding overly sympathetic here, but 20-year-old guy, obviously ceiling through the roof, right? But this is the first time that he's dealing with everything NHL, whether that's living on his own, whether that's dealing with the grind of a physical NHL season, whether that's getting accustomed to NHL teammates, coaching staff, all that stuff. So I expected kind of a little bit of a dip in his play right around this time of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, this time last year, he was living with a billet family in the OHL, and didn't have to cook for him, didn't have to cook for himself. Who knows if he's doing his own laundry, stuff like that. But I think he's a lot further off than most of us were when we were 20 years old. But he mentioned just like kind of getting used to just the physical and the mental aspect of this, and, one part is not being too hard on himself. And Conor is a pretty low key guy, but internally he is very hard on himself. And I think the past week or so has added a little bit of that. And because think about it this way is he played his brother twice, right? And so you have everyone kind of coming in, asking about him and his brother, whether it's the Boston people or us, and his family's in town for both games. And, that adds a little bit of pressure. I asked him, right. I was like, are you actually happy that this is kind of, you've done this and you're behind it? And he's like, oh yeah. I mean, like, there's nothing, like, I love my family. I love all my friends. I love my brother, but like all that stuff was just kind of piling on to already.
It's a lot.
Maybe,
yeah.
Yeah. So, but I do think that Conor Geekie has a special, not just a special, like natural physical talent, but I think he's also got a good head on his shoulders. And I think one thing that he benefits from is being around certain guys who've kind of put their arms around him in the sense of, and not necessarily the guys you think of as like the natural leaders of like the headsmen and the McDonoughs. Now he said that McDonough has given him a lot of really good advice along the way, but I think he's really had a really good friendship and mentorship from guys like Nick Paul, Brandon Hagel, Anthony Cirelli. That those guys have, some of the younger guys on the team probably have a little bit more in common with them. Have really kind of taken him under his wing, and they know that as good as he can be, they benefit from it too. And that's why I really do like him on that Cirelli line, because I think as much as you can be in sync with guys on the ice, it's also off the ice as well. And I just think about the way when they first started gelling, how great that was, and that if you can extend that over a long period of time, how much more dangerous this Lightning team can be down the stretch. But again, and again, part of that is taking the pressure off of him again, is putting him on the wing there, instead of feeling maybe the pressure of being a third line center or something like that. But I think that's where he'll eventually kind of evolve. I don't necessarily think we'll see him there all the time in the next month and a half. But I think that's where this natural kind of spot is. And again, like, he's a kid who is very rough on himself. So once he kind of finds that good median of like being rough on yourself and being held, and being responsible, right. It's good. But even guys like, Mikhail Sergachev used to talk about this all the time. And when we've heard from interviews with him is, how rough he is on himself and how, he holds himself to a certain standard and so on. And a lot of times that really got in Mikhail's way, and I think, as you get older, you find that way through it, to find that balance of like not sweating the small stuff, but still holding yourself accountable to a certain standard. A lot of guys just kind of peak after that. So, and I think that's what Conor's doing. The fact that Conor's doing that at age 20 it says a lot versus him doing it at say 25, 26, you know?
Right. That's a good point. What do you got going on right now on the Tampa Bay Times?
Well,
Buddy?
we got a tomorrow. We got a good look at the new power play look. A lot of different moving pieces to the fact that when we looked at it in morning skate yesterday, you really couldn't tell which was the first unit and which was the second unit because they were so kind of mishmashed together, guys from both units all together. So kind of explaining, why this works, the kind of the mentality of why they've kind of gone to this. Obviously, the power play is going to be a work in progress, maybe from game 1 to game 82. Hopefully,
Right.
after that, they've got it kind of all in sync. But the one thing I liked about what we saw yesterday was, a lot of movement and keeping the puck in the hand of your best player, which is Nikita Kucherov. And I don't know how long that can go in terms of him playing the load of minutes that he played last night. I think he almost played 28 minutes and was on both had almost 9 minutes of power play time. I don't know if you can do that, for the course of a season, but it works even on both sides, and I'll go a little bit into detail on why that works. And, just coming up, we'll look to talk a little bit more about Conor Geekie and kind of stuff that you're talking about his, just kind of the obstacles as he's had midway through his rookie season. And actually an interesting story. I don't know if you were still there for this game, but last night was first responder night.
Yep.
And at the puck drop was a TPD officer who had a heart attack on Christmas Eve answering a call. And this is kind of a cool story just about how, his, coworkers at TPD and Tampa Fire Rescue all really worked together to kind of bring him back. He basically had a massive heart attack, on his shift on Christmas Eve. And talking to the Tampa Fire Rescue people, they're saying that, this was a like point blank right there. That happens with everyone around in a hospital. That's 10% chance of living. And he had great help from his coworkers at TPD, and then a great response from Tampa Fire Rescue, which is, I think, a great story when you talk about, like, it's one thing to kind of honor everyone, all of our first responders, stuff like that. But I think it's really cool, especially not just to see this, but also to see it within our community and to know that, like, for our community to know, like, you're in good hands, is how well they work together to save really kind of, essentially one of their own family members. So I also have that in I think that's going to be my B column over the weekend in our newsletter on TampaBay.com. So, and then next week they go back on the road. So I'll be in Chicago and Detroit for that back-to-back in the weekend. And keep on grinding.
That's right. TampaBay.com. Make sure you subscribe today. And before I let you go, come on, give me some Ravens stuff. Go ahead. Give me some Ravens. You think your boys are winning or what?
I'm worried, man. I think this is a Super Bowl.
Okay.
Having been in Boston cold for a couple days, I would never want to be in Buffalo cold for
5 minutes.
5 minutes. I love Buffalo. I've taken a lot of trips to Buffalo. I think it's a great place to watch a game and cover a game. But it is like I've walked to Tim Hortons where I've been, throgging through feet of snow. So that's going to be a challenge. But the Ravens are built on the run. So I just love the dynamic of Lamar and Henry, and I think that's tough to beat especially in the postseason. So, but I'm a little biased too, probably.
Sunday night, where are you going to be watching this game?
I'll be at home.
On the couch. You have a special. Yeah. You have a one-seater. Where are you going to be? Where's your spot? Where's Ed's spot?
Yeah, so we have the extension to the couch, so I have to stick my feet out. Got my 70-inch in front. Probably I don't eat on my couch because I don't like getting stains on there or anything. I'd worry anything. So I'll probably just be on the couch there, remote in hand, my dog by my side, and
you have a jersey on. Does your wife stay by you? Does she leave?
No, she'll for that game she'll be there. Yeah.
Okay.
Whether she lasts the whole game is another thing.
Right.
But because she's a snoozer. But yeah, no jerseys, no nothing like that. I don't get too heavy into that. I also might dress my dog up. I might put like a bandana on it. So we'll see.
that. You want to get some free cheap pops there on social media. Dress up the pup.
It's always about the free cheap pops on social media.
Kids and pups, man. That's the way to go. They call it the Mick Foley social media directive, because every single time Mick Foley would go into a ring, he'd be like, "In Long Island, New York," and everybody go crazy, like, "Yeah, all right, we got it, Mick, we got it."
And now
Tampa, Florida, and now everybody does it. Right. It's almost like a race to see who can get the cheap hop first. Subscribe today to the Tampa Bay Times, and all of our friends over there, from Ed to John Romano to Joey Knight, Mark Topkin, Rick Stroud, and the entire crew over there. Ed, appreciate the time, man. We'll see you tomorrow night. If I don't sustain a last minute injury or sickness, I'm planning on being there, and we'll talk to you next week. Good luck to you and your Ravens, my friend.
Thank you. Hopefully your day today, and we do see you tomorrow.
Thank you,
right.
my friend.
Thanks for having me.
All right, pal.